Right, so right now it's time for Friday Focus. We're going to look at the menopause. As you know, Mariella Frost-Drops and very famous people, Lisa Snowdon, Penny Lancaster, Davina McCall, they've all been to Parliament for a menopause march, and they want a menopause mandate. Now, this includes more menopause clinics, a dedicated menopause champion in every GP practice, and they persuaded Commons Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle to sign a pledge to make the House of Commons menopause friendly. Now, there are warnings, though. Lots of people writing, in particular in the British Medical Journal, that says that it's wrong to medicalise a natural process and promote the idea of reversing it with HRT. So today, on Friday Focus, I want to know, should the menopause be medicalised? I'm joined by nutritionist, psychologist and author, Dr. Marilyn Glenville. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio.
You're welcome, Nana.
I love that colour.
Thank you. I thought it goes with the weather today.
I must get something in that colour. It's really nice. So, Marilyn, first of all, some people might not fully understand what the menopause is. So what is it?
Well, it is a natural stage in our life as women, and literally we run out of eggs. So we're born with our egg store, our ovarian reserve, and then we get to a certain age that egg supply then declines, and we're basically going through the menopause then. Average in the UK would be around the age of 51, so there will be some women before, some women after, but it's actually that we've literally run out of eggs. We won't be ovulating, we won't be having a cycle.
So there are no eggs left?
No eggs left.
Not even one?
Well, there might be, and that's why we've got the other definition of the perimenopause, which can start in our 40s, where the hormones will start to fluctuate. Women may miss some cycles, but they could actually unexpectedly get pregnant because there may be some times that they're ovulating and sometimes not. So we have this lead up to the menopause, and the menopause is actually our last period, and we won't really know it for at least 12 months after, when we're looking back and seeing actually we're now post-menopause.
Oh, well, it's sort of sad to see them go, but overjoyed at the same time. But then that comes with certain symptoms, doesn't it? Because not every woman goes through it, the symptoms, that is. But what percentage of people actually suffer with menopause?
Well, it's interesting because some women, like you say, will sail through the menopause. Others will experience a number of different symptoms. It seems to be that the majority will actually go through it with very minimal symptoms, but there can be some women who might wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, having to change their clothes, finding it difficult in the work environment as well. So there's quite a variety, and it does change because it is a transition. We're actually moving through this stage and out the other side. So it just depends on how the woman's coping. Stress can actually make symptoms much worse. That's quite clear from the research. So there are ways of helping ourselves going through this transition and then, feeling comfortable with it and going out the other side as well.
So one of those ways is HRT, which, a lot of people talk about that.
Yes.
But there are lots of different ways of coping with it. I mean, HRT, is that something that you use?
I've always gone... my first book I wrote in 1997 was actually Natural Alternatives to HRT. And I do agree with what's going on from the information in the British Medical Journal about not medicalising the menopause, because they're suggesting that it's actually, or the experts and the mandate that's coming through, that it's a hormone deficiency disease, that we've actually got a medical condition, but we are going through a natural stage. And we go through a natural stage at puberty. It's just we're going almost in reverse the other way. In puberty, the hormones are kicking in and we will get symptoms, we get spots, mood swings, the cycle's kicking in, and then we're going the other way as we get to the menopause. So I see it as this natural stage in our life, and I would like HRT almost to be the last resort. But at the moment now, and I do welcome all the media attention, because I've been in this field now over 35 years, and women didn't talk about it, but it's a bit taboo. Now, having all this attention, which is lovely, and that freedom to talk about all the symptoms, but it looks like now that the only solution for the menopause is HRT, and I'm not keen on that. I'm very passionate around helping women nutritionally, lifestyle factors, to go through this stage without HRT and just using it for those that absolutely need it because the symptoms are so severe.
So you deal with nutrition and balancing the hormones and things like that rather than... I mean, there are lots of different ways of handling it. If I hear you, I would definitely myself personally rather try everything natural before I finally take medicine, proper medicine at the end of it.
And there are, with any medication, there's always risks. So we're weighing up risks versus benefits. And because I see this as a natural process, women are taking a medication and it can increase the risk of breast cancer. That's the concern around it. And my other question always is, how long would the woman stay on it for? You know, is she going to stay on it forever? Or the difficulty is coming off of it, where the withdrawal symptoms might be severe for some women. So it's just weighing up, are there choices around this stage that women could make that choice and use different natural remedies, that sort of thing, going through it, and use the HRT absolutely if they need it, but smallest dose for the shortest amount of time.
Of course, and I mean, for many it's an absolute lifesaver. I know people have said it completely changed their lives, so, you know, we're all for anything that works. So what is your, why, you said it because it's a natural thing in terms of medicalising it, but there are benefits to medicalising something, aren't there, that, for example, you can get off sick from work and things like that, can't you? So there's, if it becomes a sort of medical thing, then the government will have, you get certain benefits for that if it's medicalised. Is that not the case?
Well, I would say it would be good to have, like having the champions in the GP surgery who would also talk to the women about what they're eating, looking at lifestyle factors, exercise, looking at those natural remedies, how they're, you know, what their diet is like, reducing the stress response, good research on things like cognitive behavioural therapy. So it's really thinking about other approaches to this rather than immediately thinking, well, HRT is the only solution, which is the feeling that's coming across in the documentaries, the suggestions that actually this is the only route to go. And I think the British Medical Journal were trying to bring that out, to not medicalise it in that way. And the expectation then, I think, and was cited in that article, is that women are going to expect the worst, that there's putting on there that all of these symptoms could occur. And unfortunately, some of the symptoms might not be connected to the menopause. And so everything may be blamed around this stage in our life. And that's my concern. And I've wrote books on the subject. I've written a report. And women are welcome to download it. I've got an educational website. It's called MarilynGlenville.com. And they can just download it. And it will give all the information about the food side, the phytoestrogens, checking for deficiencies, that sort of thing. So there's so much we can do to help ourselves that's really important.
Because in particular in the workplace, because a lot of people might not understand the sort of way it would affect a woman in the workplace. What kind of things do you think that companies can do to sort of help? Because obviously GPs saying that they're going to have a certain person who's going to look after people who have menopause, and there'll be a sort of star-type person. But what about in the workplace, though? How do you think businesses can sort of facilitate women as they go through?
I think a lot can be done, and I've done a number of talks for the police, and they've been really understanding, especially where women may be wearing a lot of equipment that may be too heavy at that stage in their life, or the kind of material may be increasing the things like the hot flashes, and also in the workspace, having some fans, having that ventilation. So people are really thinking about this in the workplace, of how they can help women go through this stage, and maybe just putting in some practical things. I think women are just a bit worried if they, at the moment, if they're talking about it, it puts a question about their age. But we really need women to stay in their job. They've got so much experience, so much potential, and being able to train the others coming up, that we don't really want to lose them because they're feeling uncomfortable.
Well, of course, and you're probably better. I mean, not that, you know, obviously the older the woman is, the less likely she is to go and leave to have children.
Yes.
So you've got women who are going to be dedicated and will stay there and not leave to have children. Nothing wrong with that, of course. But as an employer, you would know that, well, actually, this person probably won't be taking time off for kids to have children. So
and they've got a lot of experience, you know, been in that job for so long that they can give that valuable, you know, training to the younger ones coming up, and really is a benefit that the, you know, employers don't lose them. So whatever they can do to make the environment more comfortable, whether it is something like in the police with the clothing or the equipment they have to carry, or ventilation, that sort of thing, and even just talking about it, women's groups, you know, being able to share the experience of what worked, what doesn't, really useful.
And what about for the men who are, because obviously they're not going to go through this unless we're having a Keir Starmer issue where we can't say what a woman is or a man. But what about the men who have to deal with, obviously, because they've got their partners going through this?
Yeah.
It must be very difficult for them.
And it's interesting because I do, at the moment, all my talks have been online as webinars, but I often do in-person talks. And with the menopause, oftentimes the partner would come. And that's been really lovely for them to understand, you know, if it's a woman, what their partner's going through and how they can support them through this change. Because obviously it's different for men, and having that understanding does enable them to feel, you know, more sympathy. They're seeing and feeling what's going on with those hormone changes. So I think the men can be really supportive.
Well, Marilyn, stay right there, because I'm going to have a chat with the business psychologist and wellbeing consultant Lee Chambers now. So, Lee, welcome to the programme. I want to ask you, from a business standpoint, what impact does the menopause have on industry?
So there's a significant impact here. I mean, what I've seen is there's 10% of women who are suffering actually leaving their roles due to a lack of support. 80% of women we surveyed said they hadn't had any support at all. And obviously they are incredible, valuable asset to their workplaces, highly experienced, highly skilled. And especially in certain sectors, public sector quite often, they are the highest demographic, women between 45 and 60. And they're also the biggest growing demographic in the workplace overall. So, you know, they are such an asset, and some are unfortunately struggling an awful lot. That's then leading to a whole host of challenges. I do a lot of employee facilitation and hear those stories. And, you know, I agree with a lot of what Dr. Marilyn is saying there around being able to find a solution that works for you. But women definitely need a voice and an ability to choose what works for them and have a level of support from the workplace that really looks at what adjustments can be made, how they can be supported, and normalising that conversation. So both women and men in the workplace have an idea of some of the symptoms, have a bit of education and understanding about how they can support, and really be able to make that difference for those who are really struggling.
Now, Lee, would you like to see, do you think that menopause would be medicalised then? Because in which case, if I was to say I'm going to take time off because I'm going through my menopause at the moment, that would be sort of an acceptable reason for not coming in that day. But if it's not medicalised, then you sort of have to, people sort of don't quite understand what's going on, and there doesn't seem to be a genuine sort of reasoning. What do you think?
Yeah, so it's a really delicate balance, in my opinion. We don't want to get to a point where it's labelled a disorder or a condition, because, as Dr. Marilyn says, very much it's a period, a transition, a journey, and it's natural. So what we don't want to do is it's become this heavily medicalised term where we are looking at it from a disorder perspective. And in business, it's not a protected characteristic, for example. So reasonable adjustments are made based on an individual case, which I think is important as well, because symptoms are so varied across those women who find it challenging. And about a third of women actually find it really significantly challenging in the workplace. I think it's important that they have the opportunity within businesses, a space to be created to share those stories and share what's worked for them, have that space and have a bit of understanding about what they're going through. Definitely have access to things that will make that easier for them to work more effectively. I'm really starting to consider as well, you know, we're in a world where sometimes, even from a medical perspective, understanding is quite low. If we can raise that, then, you know, those women will be more supported from a healthcare perspective and then able to flourish more in the workplace and really bring those skills to their jobs every day.
Well, Lee, thank you for that. What a nice man. Lee Chambers, thank you very much. He's a business psychologist and wellbeing consultant, although he did say it's a period. No, it's the last period. That's the thing. He did say
transition,
that.
I think we'll go with.
Yeah, we'll go with the transition. It's the last period, thank goodness for that. Dr. Marilyn Glenville, it's so good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your thoughts on this. If people want to find out more, get help, where can they go? I know you've got...
it's an educational website. It's marilynglenville.com, and it's got lots of information on that, and this free report on the menopause and looking at balancing hormones with phytoestrogens, food and everything else. So it's where people are welcome to download that.
That's lovely, Marilyn. Thank you so much for joining me. A pleasure. Dr. Marilyn Glenville.